Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about real professionals. So let's get into it. So the question in question was posted on the video that I made that is completely not a front-end interview video. And the reason why it's not a front-end interview video is because I don't make those anymore, because whenever I do, there's a million billion people who wants to explain to me why I don't know what it means to be a front-end engineer or a back-end engineer or anything like that, yet somehow I keep on finding work and I keep on hiring other people for the different companies based on the same principles, and everybody I talk to follow those principles, yet these people who are on the internet seem to not agree. I don't know why. But anywho, so the subscriber posts, I totally agree that it is impossible for you to fake your skills with a decent engineer. Because basically in that video I explained to you guys that the idea that you're going to fake your way through an interview if there's a real software developer, like a senior software developer, who knows their stuff, is basically non-existent. You cannot fake skills that you don't have to someone who knows how to evaluate those skills. But a lot of people are hacking the system because of, I think at the very least, one, the immense market demand, two, there is no real quote-unquote senior in the hiring process, which is, I think, a side effect of number one. Frederick, do you think it's possible to fill the IT job demand if there's only so-called professional grade software engineers? Aren't all the other engineers also necessary? Thank you for sharing your knowledge and have a great day. Well, thank you. So, this is what I argue. We have to make a distinction between good developers and bad developers. Because when you say professional grade software engineer, the way that at least I think about that is that now we're talking about a mid-level software developer who is good, or all the way up to like a senior who is good. And you see, there is a lot of difference between someone who is good and someone who's bad, because as I like to say, the number of years you have is almost irrelevant. It's a talent business. This is a talent business, and trust me guys, I worked and I have worked with people who've been in the game for 20 years and are so out of touch and so bad at their job that they are holding back entire companies because of their incompetence. But the problem is that they themselves, as you were mentioning, have no real senior or no one else who can actually get management to realize that this person is incompetent, because management in turn is incompetent, depending on how you want to look at it. And this is sort of the way that it works when you have a, as I like to say, like being a software developer is very close to being a wizard. You're doing magic to most of the world, and when people don't understand, they don't feel like they sort of can with confidence evaluate how good a person is, they're very reluctant to say things, because it might mean that they make a mistake, it might mean that they accuse somebody of being bad when they're actually not. It's sort of the same way I would feel if I were to evaluate anything that is completely unknown to me. And it's a very, because we live today in a society, guys, where ignorant accusation is very frowned upon. It used to be the case that, things like racism and prejudice, sexism, like all of these sorts of classical opinions that you might hold that isn't really founded in reality, but you could be very verbal and you could create a lot of friction with it without much of a blowback on you. Well, that's no longer the case. We're actually in the reverse, where everybody's walking on eggshells for the most part, because people are scared to death that someone's going to interpret anything they say in the wrong way, and they're going to be in the hot seat. And so for bad software developers, this is actually a golden opportunity, because as long as you can get someone to think that you are what you say that you are, it's actually in many cases very hard to get rid of you, or to find out whether or not you're good or bad at your job. And it's not unlike the con game, basically. For a lot of this is more common in sales and so forth, where you have people who are so charismatic and so good at moving around that it's very hard for you to figure out whether or not what's actually going on as whoever you are. So these such of people are never needed. Never, under any circumstance. And the reason is the reason behind why they're never needed is for a very similar sort of reason why corrupt police officers are never needed. Because if you have someone like that in the police force, you're actually going to damage the entire, it's the bad apple problem. You can have corrupt cops. I mean, no police force is completely corruption free, but what I'm saying is that this is actually someone where the value of having that person is lower than the damage that they are actually making. Even a person who is, a non-corrupt police officer that is still able to do the job, even if they don't do it all that well, could be of value if you don't have any other option. But just as in politics or anything, if you have the wrong person, they might destroy the whole system, or they might start affecting people who are good in a negative fashion. And in software, it's a very similar sort of thing where all the code, everything is connected, which means that if you have one team or one person who's like just churning out problems all the time, it's actually like a cog in a machine that the whole machine starts grinding down to a halt. And if you're really unlucky, that cog is in connection to something that's very central, like I call a backbone feature, which stops the whole thing basically. And trust me guys, this happens. Holy shit, it happens. I've seen it many times. But that is the bad software developer. The thing that I believe is that I completely agree with you that there is space for the other engineers who are not professional grade, like senior level, etc., who are like trained and so forth. The junior software developers are people who are sort of getting into the business. And the reason I argue why the industry is so focused on getting mid-levels and seniors and so forth and don't really hire juniors, even when they're good juniors. One part is because of history and the old prejudice. You want people who know their stuff. You don't want to train them, and because they might leave, etc., etc. But I think that this has mostly to do with the fact that the IT industry hasn't really matured into the what I call proper mindset, because currently most of IT is, in my opinion, misusing their senior staff and their mid-levels, because in practice, guys, there are enough mid-levels and seniors to go around for companies. The thing that you don't have is enough of them that you can hire only those people and staff up entire companies with them. That's not going to happen, or rather it's going to be very tricky for you. But finding one or two, absolutely. But the problem is that most people treat senior level experiences and even really talented mid-levels as just another developer, and that is a big mistake. They should be treated in the same fashion that you treat a manager. And how do you treat a manager? Well, the idea behind a manager is that this is a higher level role within a company. You don't hire an entire company of managers. You hire maybe one or two to manage more people. And the idea, at the very least, is that they should have a positive effect on everybody else who's working in the company. Software developers or real professionals should be treated the same way. If you are using your senior staff of software developers as just another person who's churning out code for the different product teams you have and so forth, you're basically, in my opinion, wasting your talents. Because what you should be doing is to have these people focus almost exclusively, as much as possible, in supporting the various teams, making sure that they have a good work process, educating people, making sure, especially investing in internal tools and workflows that basically make it possible for you to reduce the complexities of your company's development process to a point where a junior level software developer can do it. Because if you do that, then you need one or two seniors to every 5 or 10 junior software developers, and you can start mass hiring the thing that we have in droves, which is a lot of passionate people who want to get into the industry, but you won't let them in because you are not ready to take them on usually as a software company. And that is the thing that Google and these larger companies really know their tooling and so forth. That's what they have. which most companies don't have. They have a real software company where they actually focus a lot on developing a lot of the standard tools that is necessary in order to make these sorts of things possible. So you can hire people right out of college without any risk, practically, because you have the infrastructure in place to make them productive almost and make money from them almost immediately. Most companies don't do that. Most companies will look at themselves as like passive consumers of open source libraries or other sort of solutions or cloud solutions and so forth from the quote-unquote real IT companies or like the FAANG companies and so forth, when in reality every company who has software developers can do the same thing. There's nothing magical about what Google is doing or what Facebook is doing with React or whatever tool it is. You can do the same thing, but you have to invest in order for you to be able to gain those sorts of benefits. And that is the thing that has to change, in my opinion, because it's the only way we're going to be able to meet the increasing deficit or like the increasing demand for software developers, at least if you ask me. So what I want you to take away from this is that I agree with this person. I don't think that there is a way for us to just hire professional seniors, like really, really good mid-levels or all the way up. There is enough people. It's the deficit is enormous. We're talking about millions of people at this point. And there is no way that's going to go lower, because the demand of what you need to know all the tools and all the things that so forth, it's just increasing. It takes years and years of experience to get to a point where you're so good at everything programming related that you can basically run the entire IT department or software development process if you want to. And it not only takes years, it takes passion and drive to get really good at it. So it's really rare to find these like unicorn type of characters who like know all of the stuff right. But there is enough of them that most companies will be able to find maybe one or two of those people, or people at the very least who are very good at the whole software development tool stack and so forth that is being used within the company. And the reason why I think that we need to change our way of thinking about these sorts of people is that we're thinking of them as just another construction worker. It's just another person doing the coding. But what you should be doing is you should treat these people as a task force or like a special forces type of an entity, where their job is to do meta programming. Their job is to simplify all the other work and help out with all the other work in the key areas that are necessary within the business, so that other people that are maybe junior level and so forth can be hired to do the grunt work or the stuff that is lower in complexity. And this is all possible, but it's not being done today because you're viewing these very scarce type of profiles within software as just another construction worker or just another carpenter or like just another person who's doing the job right. And that is the thing that needs to change. They should be closer, in my opinion at the very least, to support staff or educators or managers or something like that, where their job is not to just produce stories. Their job is to fix the problems of the company. And the problems for most IT companies is we do not have enough people to meet all of our headcount. Have a great day.